Hello everyone, this is Crystal Putoff from Peripheral Arts, and the last 2 weeks I was working on some Aracuna eggs that were rather old, at least 15 years old. They took the dye very well. Some of them the holes in them were very large, so I cut out shapes, and that worked well too. But so now this week I'm working on the goose eggs. They are not taking the dye well. I drew a very intricate pattern on this one and tried to dye it black, and it just didn't work. And the black was a new dye. It had only been used a couple times. So I don't think it was the dye, I think it was the shell. So I thought, okay. So I put this shell in the cleaning vinegar and then put it in the black, and I had the same rather poor results with it. As you can see, it's very uneven, and in some places it hardly even took. So what I am going to do now is I've plugged all 5 of these eggs, and like this one had cracks, so I plugged the crack, or tried to go over the crack part. So what I'm going to do with all 5 of these, there's the other one, is acid etch them, and then I'm going to try them again in the black dye, or well, the ones that 2 of them I wanted to have black lines. These 2 are going to have jewelry because their lines were just, the cracks were just too big. But these 3 I'll be doing somewhat traditional Pysanky on them. But I'm going to try the acid etch, and then I'll try dyeing the black. Draw out the pattern again, dye it black, and we'll see what happens. So here's a progress update. I did the acid etch, and as I was cleaning them, I could see where they weren't, they did have like some kind of buildup on them. So I cleaned them all, let them dry. This is one I've started to do the lines on it that will be in white. Now I had the other 2 that I wanted to dye in black. And so it took the black quite well after I did the acid etch. I'm very happy with the black. However, all of the pencil lines I drew on here pretty much disappeared. So I'll be drawing this pattern again, one of them for the 3rd time, this one for the 2nd time. I can see some of the lines, but I definitely can't see very many of them. But they did take the dye well, so that was a good thing. Practice makes progress. I will draw the pattern again with the pencil, and then I will start putting the wax on them. Well, this has been a test of endurance and patience. So I drew the lines with my regular lead pencil. They don't show up as well on the black dye when you draw the lines on top of it. I could have dug out my white pencil, but I didn't. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with it. I lost a few lines in the etching. I had some trouble on some of these roses, and I lost some of those lines, but I was using the extra fine Kiska. I think it'll be fine. All in all, I'm pretty happy with it right now, but yeah, it's been a little frustrating, but it's going to be good. It's going to be beautiful. I know it will, and I haven't started back on the other one yet, but I will. But for tonight, I think I'm going to take a break, and I'll tackle this again in the morning. I want to try and dye it yellow now and see how that color takes. Hopefully it'll take better than the black did. So I've completely forgotten to take videos of where I'm at, but the chicken eggs that were very old took the dye very well. The goose eggs have been a challenge. I have acid etched. I have used cleaning vinegar. I've had goose egg shells take the dye better. And that goes the same for the other 2 that I'm also working on. But so the status of this one, it was put in the yellow, although it took a while to get a decent yellow. I painted a little bit on of light green, and then I put it in gold, and I put some more green on to get a deeper shade, and then I also did the asparagus to get even a deeper green. And I have just now uh, put this in the cleaning vinegar again to try and get it back to a white. I had a lot of problem with these leaking. This one in particular, the other two have not leaked, but I have been putting them in the freezer before I dye them. So when I put them in the dye after taking them from the freezer, and they've been sitting in there for about 5 minutes, it bubbles, but I'm not getting any leaking. So these two here, I just dyed this one in the gold and it's not leaking. And this one was dyed in the gold and it's not leaking either. So I'm definitely going to use the freezer method on the remaining of these. But right now these are all resting because they've been through some trauma here with being frozen and dyed. So we're going to let them rest before I start adding more wax and color to them. I want to demonstrate what happens when you use the freezer method. So this is the Ukrainian Gift Shop light blue. The egg was dyed very light blue. It has been in the freezer for about 5 minutes, and can you see the bubbles? In this case, bubbles are a good thing. It's okay when the egg's been in the freezer. Normally that would mean that dye is getting inside the egg when you see the bubbles. But because the egg has been in the freezer, what it's saying is that the cold outside air is pushing out so that the dye takes better. I don't understand quite all the science of it, I'll be perfectly honest. But when you have eggs like these that are old, maybe a little porous, and I have been having trouble with the getting them sealed good because the holes were very large, this freezer process works very well to help to prevent the dye from getting inside of the eggs. Now, it's not an automatic, but it definitely does help. So I like to dye my eggs for 3 minutes. So we'll come back and see what it looks like when I take it out of the dye after it's been in there for 3 minutes. Okay, so it's been in there for 3 minutes. This is a very large egg that I'm having. I can't really. I should have wore gloves. Oh well, it's too late. Touch it. Okay, there. Fingers are going to be blue. Oh well, it'll come off. Okay, so here we have it. It's been in the light blue for 3 minutes after having been in the freezer. It's still a little cool, but it's not cold. Once I let it dry, I could start putting wax on it. All right, so, and it took very nicely, very evenly. I don't see where it's leaking, and that's what we want. So I have the other two I'm working on. I'm going to dye them after I go wash off my hands. And we'll be back to show some more progress on the eggs. So something I forgot to mention about freezing your eggs. Two things. I usually put mine in a paper towel or a Kleenex or something, just in case there's something icky in the refrigerator or the freezer I don't want it touching. Plus, as you can see, this egg is white. Previously, it was brick, which was the Ukrainian Gift Shop color brick. And so I had, because I'm putting it in the very light blue, I needed to wash it off. So I actually put it in the cleaning vinegar and got it all cleaned up. And then I let it dry for, it probably sat about 4 hours drying. I wanted to make sure it was completely dry before I put it in the freezer. You do not want to put a wet egg in the freezer. That's not a good idea. You could end up with it cracking your egg. You could end up defeating the purpose of using the freezer method. So if you have washed off your egg or whatever you've done, or washed it or etched it or anything, let it dry for a couple of hours at least before you put it in the freezer. Again, you want to make sure it's good and dry before you go to dye it. And ooh, look at that. That's looking pretty. Okay, it's got to sit in there for a few more minutes. And then I'll take it out and show you what it looks like. Okay, it's been in here for a couple minutes. I'm going to pull it out. Once again, forgetting to wear gloves, hoping not to get blue dye all over my hands. Okay, oh, that turned out very nice. Very nice. I like that. So there were 3 goose eggs that I was putting patterns on them. This one is done. Well, it has to take the wax off. And then the other one I was working on, that one, I've etched it. So this one also is ready for the wax to come off. And then I have one more here. I'm still working on this one. So that one's got to sit for a minute and dry with some work that I did on it. But I'm getting very close. So when we come back, it will be time for reveal. One, 2, 3. All right, it's time to do wax off. I thought about doing it with the heat gun, but this one has an awful lot of wax on it. So I think I'm going to do them in the oven. And I will be back to show you what they look like. But first, I need to peel off these great big plugs so I can stick them in the oven. Let's see what they look like. I am so excited to see what they're going to look like. And here they are. I am excited. I love the way these turned out. Now this one, because of these holes, I'm probably going to end up painting the top with white, just so it's all nice and even. But that's the least. I mean, I love the way this turned out. The lady that had the eggs said she liked blues and greens, so that's kind of what I have here with the yellow roses that she also said she liked. So each of the 4 diamonds has a different rose and some other symbols on it. It turned out really great. I'm very excited about it. This is the white daisy one. I kind of used some earth tone colors, and then this very light blue background. Again, this one. I love them all. This one, I have to tell you, I was really nervous about if the purple was going to show up. The egg wasn't taking the dye very deeply, but it took the black, like, wow, beautiful. And, but it turned out great. And the violets look beautiful against the black background. I'm so glad I went with that. Anyway, I love doing the 3 of these 3. That's been a lot of fun. I am in the process of working on the last 2, which are going to be jewelry. So I actually kind of have worked on these a little bit during the drying stages of that, but I'll have the complete video on the jewelry next week. So thank you so much for watching along. This was exciting. I'm thrilled about the way they turned out. The only thing I have to do before I varnish them is clean up where these holes were that I had to make rather large. This was the only one that didn't. I'll clean that up, but it was the easiest of the three, but they all turned out great. All right, now on to the last two of these very old eggs, and we will have completed this challenge.